Hey everybody, how are you doing today? Today we're gonna go over Photoshop CS6 and we're gonna start going over adjustment layers. And from this tutorial on, we're gonna start getting into like some of the really cool stuff in Photoshop. The tutorials before this were more about how to use the program and how to basically get familiar with like some of the components of the program that are necessary to working efficiently in Photoshop. Now we're going to start getting into some of like the tools and adjustment layers and the stuff that you can use to start making your photos or your design or your document look pretty nice. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go over what adjustment layers are and how they're cool in a like a little like I don't know, lecture, I guess. So the purpose of an adjustment layer is to show how a specific adjustment changes the appearance of an image. So you can apply something like hue and saturation or something like that to an image and it'll adjust how that layer looks. Adjustment layers, they can be saved with the document. So once you close the document and you return back to it, the adjustment layers are still there and you can make further changes to those adjustments. So another advantage of using adjustment layers is dealing with like the size of the Photoshop file. So adjustment layers do not increase the size of a Photoshop document at all, which is awesome. So since adjustment layers are pretty much just a set of mathematical data, they don't increase the size of the file at all. So that's really nice, and keep that in mind when you're applying different things. So you can apply adjustment layers instead of something else that might take up more file size and make your project bog down. So there are a few ways that you can apply adjustments. You could go into the image menu here, and then we could go to adjustments and use some of these. However, these adjustments here are permanent and they don't create an adjustment layer. Now, the other way that you can do it is by adding an actual adjustment layer. So if I come over to our layers panel over here, right above it you can see that there is adjustments here. So we can add an adjustment for brightness or contrast. You can add an adjustment for levels, vibrance, and all sorts of those things. So let me just click on one of them. I'll click on brightness and contrast, and what the adjustment layer does is it affects the layers below it. Now I can increase the brightness or lower it or whatever I want to do. Same with like any other adjustment layer that I use. Now you can see the adjustment layer is here, and the adjustment layer comes with its own mask, and that's what this part here means. So you can define where the adjustment layer is being used. One good thing about using adjustment layers from here is that they don't alter the original image. So it's going to be a non-destructive process. And what that means is if you start changing around the original image here, like if we put some things on the background without them being on a separate layer, that's going to be altering the original image, and that's going to be called destructive editing. And a non-destructive is when you start using layers that don't alter the original image. So let's go ahead and create another adjustment layer. Now you remember that we can create the adjustment layers from this area here, and all you got to do is roll your mouse over and it'll tell you what the adjustment picture means. You can come up here to layer and then come down to new adjustment layer and add these in. You can also add in fill layers, which are pretty much the same thing as adjustments. And you can also add adjustment layers down here at this button with it's like a half circle, half white, half transparent. Click on that, and then you can also add more adjustment layers there. So that's how you do that. Now if you add your adjustment layer and you need to modify it later, all you need to do is have this properties tab open, and it'll bring up this adjustment layer sliders and whatever else is within the adjustment layer for you to edit. If that's not there, just double click on the icon here and you'll be able to adjust the adjustment layer after. Now I'll go over more in depth what some of these other things mean, and I'll go over some of the adjustment layers with you in a later tutorial when we have some more time. So I'm just gonna end here. So we learned what adjustment layers are, why they're good, and how to add adjustment layers and how to modify them. So remember that all those steps and use them to your advantage in your next projects. So we'll be going over more stuff about adjustment layers in the next few tutorials, so keep on watching if you want to learn. So see you guys later in the next tutorials, and I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' input and stuff. See you guys later.